Today's story took us to Melbourne, Australia, in 2009. The Freeman family had 3 young children, but unfortunately their marriage did not stand the test of time. The couple decided to separate and agreed on shared custody of the children. Both parents loved their kids deeply, and maintaining a strong relationship with them was a priority for each of them. What happened next shocked everyone. On January 29, 2009, it was supposed to be the first day of school for 4-year-old Darcey Iris Freeman. She rode through the streets of Melbourne, Australia in a white Toyota Land Cruiser with her father, Arthur, and her 2 brothers, 6-year-old Benjamin and 2-year-old Jack. Darcey was excited, looking forward to being called a schoolgirl from then on. 35-year-old Arthur Freeman lived in the family home in Hawthorne, a suburb of Melbourne. He and his wife Peta, with whom he was separated, were raising their 3 children together. Arthur had a keen interest in modern information technology and had previously worked as a database administrator in London, among other roles. He loved his children dearly and tried to spend as much time with them as possible, especially with Darcey. He regularly took her to ballet lessons, sitting on the parents' bench and complimenting everything she did. It was approaching 9:15 a.m., and the heat was becoming unbearable. The city center was caught in a traffic jam that was moving at a snail's pace. The white Toyota slowly inched onto the Westgate Bridge, which spanned the Yarra River. Suddenly, Arthur turned off the engine, got out of the car, and opened the back door. He reached inside, unbuckled 4-year-old Darcey from her seatbelt, picked her up in his arms, and carried her out.
Yes, good morning to you. I'm on the Westgate Bridge at the moment. I've just been witness to someone throwing their child over the bridge.
So, Westgate Bridge?
On the Westgate Bridge, leading into the city.
Okay, so you're going inbound towards the city?
Yeah, inbound towards the city, yes.
Okay.
So the guy's driven off, but we got his registration, and we can see the child floating in the water, yeah? Yeah,
Okay.
male.
A male? And was there anyone else in the car?
I couldn't see. I was just driving
So
past.
thrown a child, did you say?
Yes.
Give me a description of the driver first, of the vehicle.
Male, I don't know, the male was about mid-40s.
Mid-40s, yeah.
About 6 foot, medium to solid build, and blonde to sort of receding hair. I can't be sure. A white 4-wheel drive vehicle, I think it was a Toyota Land Cruiser.
Witnesses of the entire incident later recalled that the child appeared limp, like a rag doll. She didn't scream, kick her legs, or protest, even when her father lifted her over the metal barrier and let go. The little girl plunged nearly 60 meters down and hit the murky water below. Arthur, as if nothing had happened, returned to the driver's seat, turned the key in the ignition, and drove off. 6-year-old Benjamin, not understanding what was happening, pleaded with his father to go back for his sister, who couldn't swim. The first to arrive at the scene were officers from the water police unit. They approached the girl by boat and transported her to a nearby children's hospital. Her condition was critical. In addition to bruises, she had severe head and internal injuries. The rescue team spent an hour trying to stabilize her on the riverbank before they could finally transfer her to the emergency department. Other officers began searching for the white Land Cruiser. They feared the driver might act unpredictably with the other children as well. However, the manhunt didn't last long. At 10:30 a.m., Arthur Freeman appeared at the family court building. He was shaking and crying, looking as if he was experiencing a severe mental breakdown. Jack and Benjamin clung tightly to his pant legs. "Can you take care of my children?" he asked the approaching security guards. He couldn't manage to say anything more. The older of the boys gave the officers his mother's contact information. Freeman was handcuffed and arrested. Family friends were called to the court to pick up the children. Peta Freeman learned of the tragedy while standing outside the school, waiting for her husband to arrive so she could give him their daughter's school uniform. Upon hearing what had happened to Darcey, she rushed to the hospital. Despite the medical team's immense efforts, they couldn't save Darcey's life. She passed away at 1:35 p.m.
The 4-year-old stood little chance. It's Melbourne's tallest bridge. and she was dropped nearly 60 metres into the Yarra River. It took paramedics 10 minutes to reach the child. Miraculously, she was still alive. Named locally as Darcey Freeman, she received treatment on the riverside and was then flown to the city's Royal Children's Hospital. She died later, suffering from horrendous internal injuries. The incident happened shortly after 9 a.m. local time. Witnesses said they saw the Toyota Land Cruiser on the bridge's near side lane. A man, thought to be the child's father, was seen throwing the little girl from the bridge. 2 other children, also in the car, were unharmed. Within 2 hours, 36-year-old Arthur Philip Freeman was arrested.
The police aimed to quickly determine the motive behind the perpetrator's actions. It was unfathomable to anyone that a loving father could commit such a cruel act against his own child. There was no doubt that throwing Darcey into the water was considered murder. Witnesses unanimously confirmed that her father acted with premeditation. During those chilling minutes, he remained calm and never hesitated. Meanwhile, at the police station, Freeman appeared to be in a state of severe mental distress. He was unable to articulate a single coherent sentence. He continuously cried and his body was racked by spasms. He only said that he couldn't remember what had happened. The doctor called by the police deemed him incapable of giving a statement due to shock and suicidal thoughts induced by the trauma. The judge assigned to the case decided that he would remain in custody until he regained control of himself. Freeman's defense attorney, Zelma Rudstein, spoke to the media, describing her client as a loving father. No one could have anticipated that he would do something like this. "We are all devastated. We are still trying to understand what happened," she said. Arthur Freeman was not the only one in need of psychological help. Shortly after Darcey's death, several medics and police officers involved in the rescue operation sought professional support. The civilian witnesses also experienced trauma. Some tried to convince themselves that Freeman had thrown a doll from the bridge. The fact that he let go of a 4-year-old child was simply beyond their comprehension. Arthur Philip Freeman was born in 1972 in Australia. In the 1990s, he studied computer science at Deakin University. After earning his degree, he began working as an IT specialist at the aeronautical campus of the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology. In his spare time, he engaged in autocross racing. Along with a group of friends, he bought a racing Ford Escort and participated in competitions. In 1998, Arthur met Peter Barnes, who was working as an HR specialist at an Australian corporation. The couple hit it off and began dating. Soon after, they rented an apartment together in Richmond, and on December 31, 1999, they got married. On January 17, 2000, the newlyweds moved to London, where Arthur secured a well-paying job. Their first child, Benjamin Eric Freeman, was born on February 1, 2002. Darcey Iris followed on February 11, 2004, and their youngest, Jonathan Jackson William, was born on February 24, 2006. On June 24, 2006, the Freeman family decided to return to Australia, despite having considered settling in the UK permanently just a few weeks earlier. Back in their home country, Arthur struggled to find work, which affected his mood. His constant mood swings took a toll on family life. On March 23, 2007, the couple decided to separate. They agreed to share custody of the children in 3-day intervals. In June 2008, Arthur announced his intention to pursue his plan from 2 years earlier and apply for permanent residency in the UK. Peta was not pleased with this decision. She feared that the move would complicate the custody arrangements. As a result, she filed a lawsuit to establish formal visitation rights, which drove her ex-husband to a state of fury. The hearing was scheduled for January 27-28, 2009, but first, the family was directed to meet with a psychologist. The specialist was to help the Freemans determine the best form of custody for their children. Arthur did not make a favorable impression. He was late for scheduled sessions, spoke out of turn, and interrupted others mid-sentence. Due to his behavior, the children were more stressed than necessary, the psychologist recalled. In his report, the psychologist noted that Arthur had chronic personality and interpersonal problems, characterized by a lack of rational thinking and avoidance of responsibility for his actions. He recommended that the children live permanently with their mother and spend every other weekend with their father, who, despite his flaws, undoubtedly loved them very much. Although Arthur appeared to be officially satisfied with the settlement, deep down he felt immense disappointment. He confided in friends that he was angry and frustrated. On January 28, 2009, he took the 3 children for the night. PETA called them in the evening to wish the siblings good night. Freeman refused to hand over the phone. "We'll call you tomorrow on the way to school," he said curtly. Arthur appeared in court in April 2011. He did not admit to the murder of his 4-year-old daughter and consistently maintained that he could not remember what happened on the fateful January 29th. During his time in custody, he behaved impeccably and caused no trouble. He occupied himself with growing tomatoes. In the defendant's dock, he looked disheveled. With unkempt hair covering the bald spot on the top of his head, he resembled a mad prophet. He bore little resemblance to his former self, a fact even noted by his ex-wife. Throughout all the years we knew each other, he always looked immaculate, smoothly shaven, well-groomed, and with a carefully styled haircut, PETA recalled. "My son was very upset by the conversations with the psychologist and the resulting report," testified the accused's father, Peter. He believed that the report was the reason he did not receive equal custody rights for the children. He felt that the report was biased and he felt persecuted as a result. Prosecution witness Elizabeth Lam recounted that Freeman had called her shortly before his daughter's murder, complaining that there are many angry women in the courts who wouldn't allow him to see his children often. He was so helpless. He loved his children. He adored being part of their lives. He felt that they had been taken away from him. Ms. Lam had once witnessed her friend's emotional breakdown. Arthur cried and lamented his fate. However, he never said anything that indicated he might commit a crime. PETA painted a different picture. She testified that a month before the tragedy, she had expressed concerns to the family doctor about the safety of her children, stating that Arthur might harm them. The information was not passed on to Child Protective Services because the doctor deemed her concerns insufficient to warrant an alarm and personally concluded that the children were not at risk. The doctor testified during the trial as a witness. Even after Darcey's death, he maintained his stance. "In hindsight, I would have done exactly the same thing I did then," he stated in his testimony. He argued that PETA was scheduled to meet with a lawyer regarding the children, which ultimately reassured him that the children were safe and receiving appropriate care. According to Australian law, a doctor must report suspicions of abuse if they believe the children are indeed at risk. However, the doctor observed that Arthur Freeman behaved calmly around the children. Conversely, the children also showed no signs of stress or fear in their father's presence. Thus, the doctor had no reason to suspect otherwise.
In a court packed with the little girl's family, Justice Coughlin said he understood why some might want Freeman to be locked away forever.
On April 11, 2011, 37-year-old Freeman was sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 32 years. This means he will be eligible for release on January 29, 2041. He accepted the verdict standing, with a stone-faced expression. Judge Paul Coughlin stated that when determining the sentence, he considered the defendant's overall good behavior and his close family connections in the past. However, Judge Coughlin emphasized that Freeman's tragic actions led many people, including Darcey's mother, to question whether it was their fault. And they should not. They did nothing wrong. You did. You are responsible for the death. Only you and no one else, Coughlin said. The convicted man appealed the verdict in May 2011, but to no avail. Thank you for listening to this story. Until next time.